This is American Dumpster Fire.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to American Dumpster Fire. This is Loki.
And this is Tyr.
And,
We're still alive.
yeah, small consolation.
For now.
So, the idiot in chief tweets out today a video where, within the first, 30 seconds, one of his constituents, one of his voters, shouts out white power and puts his fist up and everything. And it's just...
With his Trump sign up in his...
It's just
a golf cart?
Perfect display of the deplorable nature of him and the people who follow him.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Then,
I literally answered that tweet and said, it's nice to know that you're finally admitting that you and your followers are racists.
And then the coward in chief deletes it like it makes it go away.
Right.
We saw it, bitch.
Yeah.
We saw that shit. And we already knew who you were and who your voters were.
I know, it wasn't a surprise.
And stop acting like you're not a bunch of racist pieces of shit. You are. That's it. If you're voting for Trump, that's who you are as a person.
Like, literally, he literally knows that the only people who are still voting for him at this point are racists. He's literally backed by the KKK and the white supremacists. Same difference, whatever. But he's, really doubling down on that, you know? Like, everything that he has been saying has some kind of undercurrent to it. Well, first of all, he posted that, Nazi fucking ad on Facebook.
Right.
Where he literally had, the upside-down triangle, which used to be, what the Nazis put on their Jewish prisoners.
Right.
It was completely out of place within this ad. There was no reason for it to be there.
Dog whistles everywhere.
Oh, yes. And then at his Tulsa rally, he just kind of made a casual comment about how he's of German descent, like a lot of you are. Like his people. And I'm like, what was the reason for that?
By the way, Germans are ashamed of that.
Probably. But, that's the thing, is that he's, specifically calling out to these people.
Yeah. They got him elected. The white supremacist vote got him elected.
Well, and the fact that a bunch of people didn't vote.
Alt-right are literally Nazis. They're just Nazis in khakis. That's the only difference.
So, I mean, really, he's making these calls all over the place, and for him to, finally tweet out the white power, were we surprised? Not so much.
Right. Yeah, we knew who he was. I was just waiting for him to say it, and he did. Thank you. Thank you for finally saying it. Thank you for finally admitting that you're a racist piece of shit.
Right. And it wasn't him that deleted it. It was one of those little, interns who do the tweeting for him. And they were like, oh, shit.
And they dropped the ball because it took them, a solid couple hours to get to it or something.
Right.
And it's just like, yeah, well, shouldn't have made it out. It did, But Grandpa didn't take his meds,
I mean, he's literally, making these calls all over the place, though. Was it an accident? I don't know that it was.
No, I think that he forgets that he's not supposed to say he's a Nazi.
He said the quiet part out loud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it. It's who he is,
It is who he is. There's no surprise there. Speaking of no surprise there, are we going to talk about the fact that he's a Russian agent?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely should, because this is a much bigger story than him
than the white supremacists
tweeting Nazi shit.
So yes, for anybody who is not on Twitter, because from what I understand, this is actually not being covered a lot on the TV news stations. But so it started off as, I want to say New York Times was the first one to put it out there, but they said basically U.S. officials have confirmed that Russia put a bounty on U.S. troops to the Taliban, I think it was,
yes.
And they offered to pay them to kill our troops. And that the White House was briefed about this months ago. And then other newspapers or whatever, not really papers anymore, but you know what I'm saying, confirmed with their own sources and confirmed it was true, including the Wall Street Journal. And then Fox also published it. And there was a couple others. Then furthermore, European officials also confirmed that this was true. And it wasn't just U.S. troops, it was European troops as well. And then it came out that they're saying, well, the president didn't know.
Well, so Russia said, nuh-uh.
Russia said fake news. They literally used the words fake news.
Right. So,
so there's that. But yeah,
but
and
we all know how trustworthy Putin is, right? I mean, it's not like
yes,
Putin
literally
doesn't lie
everybody
every
knows this.
fucking day, all
I just
fucking
think it's
day,
funny
just
that
like
they
Trump.
use the same words that Trump uses.
Oh, yeah,
fake
well,
news.
That's his dog whistle, right?
Right. So, so the bottom line is that Trump is claiming ignorance, and I don't know if he really thinks that the fact that he's taking Russia's side over U.S. officials and European officials at this point is better than whatever he's actually done here. Or if he's just claiming the incompetence of his administration is somehow an excuse, or if he's claiming that his administration is purposely keeping this from him, which the only reason I can conceive of that they would do that is because they know he's involved.
Right.
That's not any better.
First off, I don't think it was kept from him.
No, I don't either.
I absolutely believe he knows it. But yes, I think the only reason they would keep it from him is because they know he's compromised.
Mm-hmm.
And saying something to Trump is basically saying something to Putin.
Right. That's literally the only scenario I can think that would be true as well. And I agree. I don't. And everybody who has been involved in government is saying there's no fucking way in hell he didn't know about
right.
this.
And if it were true that he wasn't told, then every single person who failed to disseminate this information properly should be fired.
Right. And so he's throwing them all under the bus.
Right.
Also, we want to point out the fact that they're saying he knew about this in March.
Mm-hmm.
He then also did this whole West Point thing where he saluted a bunch of recruits.
Right. After having known that he was a traitor.
He also pled for Russia to get back into G7.
Right.
After this happened. And then I believe when he sent all the ventilators and shit to Russia, it was also after this happened.
Right. So, so the mystery money that comes from Deutsche Bank to Trump, can we deny that it was all Russian money?
So, what I read is that the money that came from... Okay, nobody else would loan Trump money.
Right.
Because he
sucks
at what he does.
Except for maybe a Russian oligarch who
right.
wanted something.
So the thing is that, from what I understand, he was given a loan from, is it Deutsche Bank or Dutch Bank?
Deutsche Bank.
Deutsche Bank. And around the same time, Russia made a large deposit.
Right.
So, yeah, the speculation is definitely there. And from what I understand, there is open investigations by the SDNY, which is another fucking scandal with the whole firing the...
it's all fucking connected.
the prosecutor, and then, but he wasn't fired, and then, but Trump says you're fired, and, the whole thing with Barr, who's also guilty as fuck.
This is all a conspiracy to cover up treason.
Right. So literally they're trying to throw the prosecutor out of there while he has ongoing cases prosecuting Epstein, Giuliani, Deutsche Bank. I feel like there was another one that I'm missing.
Trump himself, they're still trying the tax thing, are they not?
Yes. That is still going on too. And I want to say there's even more than that. But the bottom line is, there's a fuck ton going on out of that district.
Right.
And they're literally trying to fire the prosecutor.
Which shouldn't even be possible. When we take back our country from these traitorous pieces of shit, we need to put measures in place to stop any of this from ever happening. This can't possibly happen. There has to be accountability.
It is a clear conflict of interest to have to have the administration have anything to do. Well, first of all, Barr is running his office like it's Trump's personal
Gestapo.
I mean, the two should not be connected.
Right.
There should be justice in one office and Trump in the other,
right.
And it is completely politicized at this point, and it's bullshit. We know that Barr is guilty as fuck. We also know the corrupt Senate's not going to do shit about it.
Right.
And so for him to say, oh, well, suddenly this guy has resigned from his position, then to have the prosecutor say, the fuck I did.
Right.
And then for Barr to say, okay, well, you're going to make a spectacle, so Trump has now fired you. And then for Trump to say, I literally had nothing to do with it, this is on Barr. And then the guy to say, okay, you know what, now that you're not trying to put one of your own people in this position, I'm going to step down and let his deputy or whatever handle it.
Yeah.
And that's all well and good. From what I understand, now he can be called as a witness, whereas maybe he couldn't before.
Okay.
So I don't know that it helped their case any
right.
to do this. But I mean, the fact that they attempted to do it and put one of their own puppets in place is, that's an alarm right there.
Right. Well, this every time they need a puppet, they always seem to have one, right? Every time they need
so
a
many.
guy to fix things, they always seem to have one. And
They literally have the whole government just loaded with sycophants.
And then they easily just throw these people under the bus. But somehow there's always some other jackass who's willing to step up to be used, and they get thrown under the bus. And it's insane.
Yep.
You people do realize that we're going to prosecute every last fucking one of you once Trump is gone.
Oh, I want to see them all in jail.
You're
Every
all
single one
going
of
to
them.
jail. That's it. Like, you think you're going to get away with this? Fuck no, you aren't.
It's crazy.
We're coming for you.
It's been a crazy couple of weeks. But yeah, I mean, there's just so much going on. And for somebody who has active cases against him to be able to interfere with a prosecutor in any...
Right.
What
The audacity.
fuck?
The
Yeah.
audacity
Like-
it has to take. Could you imagine the enormous balls on Capone if he's like, my prosecutor's fired? That's...
Like...
What? No.
That's not the way this works. So yeah, like really, Trump and Barr are running the entire government like it's their own personal fucking law firm. Like everybody in the government answers to Trump. We are no longer loyal to America. We are loyal to Trump.
Right.
And that's the way the whole fucking GOP is being
Yeah, he's an
run right now.
authoritarian. That's the thing. I mean,
He's a fascist.
you people are all worried about a little bit of socialism to, give a little bit of equity and equality in this country, when really what you should be worried about is authoritarianism. The totalitarian...
It's alive and well in the American government.
That's it. The totalitarian regime that the right wing wants to put in place.
He's literally a fascist, and it is no wonder that he's trying to go after Antifa.
Well, and that's and because his alt-right voter base, literal Nazis, are afraid of Antifa. That's why he wants. So Antifa.
He's pandering to his white supremacist
and the alt-right, by the way,
following.
has killed far more people
Because they're
than
actual
Antifa ever
terrorists.
has. Right. So, but we're going to say that Antifa are terrorists, even though Trump voters kill more people.
Right, but he'll never denounce them because they're literally the only people who vote for him.
So,
I mean, there was also the thing with the, oh gosh, what did we call it? With the stadium being half empty in Tulsa. That was a fun little highlight.
it was fun.
And then there was the coronavirus task force where they still won't just fucking tell people to wear a mask.
I mean, okay, we can't expect anything of Pence. So the fact that Pence was ever put on the coronavirus task force shows you how little Trump stakes in it, right? I mean, the man is a wax dummy.
Literally. And he keeps pushing it back on the states and stuff. But I mean, really, if that's going to be your position, then I expect you to legalize marijuana federally so that the states can make their own decisions. And then you can go fuck yourself.
What was the point of your task force to begin with then?
Right.
So you form a task force and you're like, put it on the states.
They
did
nothing. They did nothing. They forwarded money to the wrong states who weren't having crises. They forwarded the personal protective gear and everything to the wrong places who weren't having crises. They directed things away from blue states because they're cool with them dying. And then they absolutely refused to promote mask wearing. They politicized it to the point where their followers are literally refusing to wear masks because they think it makes them look like a liberal.
Well, while being completely hypocritical about it, because Trump makes everybody around him wear protective equipment, get tested before they get near him. Like, he surrounds himself with people who have to wear masks and stuff like that.
Right, exactly. He's doubling down on the protections around him, but
Well,
out of the public eye.
Right, while throwing everybody else under the bus and getting his people.
So here's something that I had seen on Twitter. Was people posing the question that we basically know at this point that Trump is an agent of Russia,
right,
based on just repeated things that have been happening between him and Putin. Who's to say that his lack of response to the coronavirus isn't some kind of ploy to kill Americans? Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
This has been a disaster from the beginning.
The only
we know that it could have been handled better and it would have saved lives.
All of the things Trump has put into place have done nothing but weaken this country.
Exactly. So, like, that's the question. How much? What extent is he being controlled? To what extent is he following orders?
So let me put this out. I've watched several documentaries recently because I've been trying to understand some of these issues. And I knew racism was a problem. I knew white supremacist terrorism was a problem in this country.
Obviously, yeah.
Okay. I didn't know how bad it was and how systemic it was, or what have you. But
That goes deep.
when we talk about things like, is Trump trying to divide the country? Is he trying to destroy this
that's
country?
obvious.
This is a specific alt-right agenda. I'm not even kidding you here. There's a documentary on Netflix called Alt-Right, where several times they mention this idea of a two-state solution, in some cases complete takeover, or a post-America solution is one of the things described, right? Where America collapses and white supremacists take over the country.
They literally
in the
want a
wake.
war.
Well, they want to destroy our country so they can take it over. Unfortunately for them, they make up less than 20% of the population, and they're going to catch hell. They'll never win what they're trying. But that's the thing. So if they reduce our numbers enough through
They have a chance.
rampant plague, right?
So it's not necessarily Russia he's answering to when he's trying to kill off
Oh,
Americans.
no.
It's white
It is,
supremacists.
because Russia is rampantly white supremacist.
So it's both.
Yeah. So Putin has suggested the same things, where, well, we allow people of color to live in this part of the country, and that's it. No non-Christians, no.
Seriously?
Yes, this is where
That's gross.
they jail even the slightest dissident. You know, you can't say anything out of line about white Russia.
Ugh.
And it's all connected. That's the thing. These people are authoritarian scum. So, and they will destroy our
Sounds
country in a heartbeat, and Trump is working very hard for them to do it.
He really is. Like, you can't look at the things that he's saying and the things that he's doing and the things that he's tweeting without realizing that he is actively trying to cause a civil war in America.
And he's trained these people, say there's no white supremacy in America. There's no that all died. There's what, 12 people who are racist
Bullshit.
in America?
No, but he's actively trying to turn. He keeps calling to his supporters to take out liberals.
Yeah.
He has done it over and over, and it's really not that subtle.
No,
He's
it's not.
calling them, and he's sending that out through his like supporter networks and stuff. And I know a lot of people on Twitter who are not Trump supporters are following him and in his email bases and stuff, just so that they can get those messages and
Right.
pass them out to the public. But yeah, he's literally calling dog whistles. It's up to you to defend our country
Right.
against these terrorists.
Yeah,
and
he's
these,
trying to start civil war,
he
no
is
doubt.
literally trying to turn his supporters against people who are protesting.
Right. And then they turn around to deny any of that's true. But you can see, I mean,
But these people
anybody
are
with
getting these messages and putting them out.
Sure, and that's
I've
why they
seen
keep
them.
attacking people, and they keep
Yes, this is why you're seeing an uptick in the white supremacists going to the protests and trying to run people over with their cars
The funny thing,
and shooting them.
the funny thing is how cartoon buffoon they are, right? Because they come in there with their stupid bow and arrow or a machete,
Yeah.
and they try to attack a bunch of people and end up getting totally fucking owned. You know, the guy who plowed through a group of people in his truck, fucking arrested, and you know.
And the police were trying to pass that off as propaganda too. Like, they arrested all the people who pulled him out of the truck.
Yeah.
He literally tried to run them over. The protesters got him out of the truck and whatever, and the police arrested them, saying that they pulled somebody out of their truck.
That's because those police are white supremacists.
Right.
You know, and
But
they're-
they ended up arresting the guy in the truck as well.
right.
So that came out. There's just all kinds of it's crazy. This
But
country is crazy.
But that's the thing. It is blowing up in their faces as much as it's working.
Right.
It is working.
Oh.
But it's also backfiring.
It is. Like, there's been so much caught on video these past, God, how long has it been now? 2 weeks? 3
Yeah.
weeks? At least 3 weeks. More than that. And yeah, so no, like, there's been so much caught on video that there is no denying
So many
that
people-
changes need to be made. Like, big changes. Those stupid little reform bills that nobody actually like abides by, those are not going to work at this point.
On the upside, so the Republicans tried to pass a police reform bill, which was a total joke, and it got
was a
tossed.
joke.
And the Democrats proposed one, and it looks like it's actually getting traction. Now, I don't know how much better the Democrat reform bill is
It's
than
a
the
start.
Republican reform bill is, because unfortunately, the systemic racism in the justice system is deep and widespread, and both parties are guilty of it.
Oh, absolutely, both parties are guilty of it.
And
also,
I'm not sure that either one is eager to do anything about it.
right, exactly. The distraction with the statues, I feel like people are focusing so much on that they're not focusing on the real issues. There are real issues that need to be changed that run deep in this country that people don't even recognize as racist. We had discussed a few, like the marijuana laws, the electoral college, the gerrymandering,
Right.
for-profit prisons. Like, those are things that are rooted in racism that need to be torn down.
Even the healthcare system. I mean, it's just, it's absolutely ridiculous. And I've heard some of these people talking, the anti-healthcare people talking about, oh, well, if everybody gets healthcare, then I'll have to wait in a waiting room with those people. And it's like, who are those people? Who the fuck are you talking about? And of course, they always change it to, you know, poor people. Which is just as fucking bad, by the way.
Right. Here's the thing is that, like, even if we do, like, a Medicare for all or, you know, whatever, universal health care, there's no saying that there can't be, like, an elite option if you really want to pay for your health care. And, you know,
it's like, okay, look, you can
have your fancy medical centers for your elites.
You can pay your extra for your gold membership.
Right, exactly. Like, whatever, fine, do it. You can have for-profit gold level health care.
Right.
And have it be you know, plastic surgery centers or whatever, you know, where it's never going to be covered by insurance and it's, you know,
right,
whatever. That's fine. But the fact that we literally deny healthcare, that was something else that Trump did this week, was
try to take away.
Yeah, he's trying to end.
We're in the middle of a pandemic, and
he's trying to end Obamacare.
Just an idiot. Look, I want M4A. I'm not happy with Obamacare myself.
Right.
Expanding Obamacare isn't going to cut it, and
it was supposed to be step one.
But it's better than what we had.
Right.
You know, but we can do better.
Much better. Yes.
You know. But you don't just take something away and be like, oh, we'll pass something better when you have no plan.
Right, exactly. In the middle of a pandemic, tell me he's not trying to kill
people.
That's
it. Yeah, he's trying to get people killed.
He's literally trying to kill people.
So I don't know. Is there some way we can charge him with attempted murder or murder? You know, it's like,
at this point, I'm not convinced he's ever. He belongs in jail. He's belonged in jail for, you know, well before he ever became president.
Yeah.
And just nobody will do anything, and it's disheartening. The fact that we have exposed the level of fuck up that is our government, I have no respect for our government anymore.
The problem is that there's like 30% of Americans who won't acknowledge that this is fucked, that this is a total fiasco, clusterfuck.
Because he's an apologist for their racism and hate.
And it's like, is your racism really worth that much to you that you're willing to destroy the country for it?
Do you have any other reason they would follow him?
No, I don't.
They're literally in a cult, and it is rooted in racism.
So, it's fucking ridiculous.
And that's the problem, is that even once he's gone, and once
these people don't go away.
Once his administration is in jail, we're still sharing a country with these people.
That's it, and it's not getting better. There's more racists now than there have ever been.
It's not good. It's not good.
I mean, now they're a smaller percent of our country, but there's more.
Well, I mean, the bottom line is that it's not like the racists were ever gone. It's just that there was a point when America knew racism was bad.
Right.
Where they were maybe more afraid
so you kept it to yourself.
Yeah, they were more afraid to be like that emboldened in public. And now they're like, well, if the president can do it, you know?
Right.
And like literally the second 2016 Trump campaign, you know, hit, it was everywhere. It just poured out of the woodwork. People yanking off like head wraps and like beating gays on dates with beer bottles and attacking, you know, black people, just going about their business.
And then they break down into tears when they're waiting for a cheeseburger for too long or something.
Like,
you know, it's
like, do you remember these things though? Like literally, I remember like a Muslim girl was like attacked in her school, or like her teacher.
There's been so many racist attacks.
Made a comment to her or something. I don't remember, but like, yeah, like during the campaigning, like, yes, so many Muslim men and women were just treated so horribly. It was so sad. And yeah, the homophobia was rampant.
But and that's the thing, when Trump is gone, and he will be gone, these people aren't gone. They're just going to maybe quiet down a little bit, go back into the woodwork, whatever.
Right.
And we're going to lose them there, where they're going to distill more and more hate.
Into
They're going
their
to,
children.
they're going to teach their kids how to be ignorant, terrible people. And they're going to pass this around. And they have this new app called Parler, where they're hiding out on right now, where it's marketed as this First Amendment social network, but what they mean by First Amendment isn't that you can say fuck, shit, damn, okay?
They mean you can be an awful
They mean
person
you can be a
and no one
terrible,
will say
racist
anything.
piece of shit. And this is the new place for white supremacy. So, and what do we have? We have senators like Rand Paul saying, why aren't you on Parler
Ted
yet?
Cruz.
Rand, you're a racist piece of shit. Like, that's, Ted Cruz. Fuck you, Ted.
Right.
I just, why? Why are we here?
Yep. It's
And
bad.
I wouldn't doubt Parler is owned by the Russians, personally. I mean, I
I
feel
wouldn't
like
doubt it either.
I feel like it was probably designed by the Russians for this specific purpose, to sow more dissent.
I don't see how it's going to help them any, though. I mean, like,
It should have been
I
called
think it
echo
was
chamber.
You, that's what I was going to say. I think it was you who called it an echo chamber, and that's basically what it is. Like,
Yeah.
good. Lock yourselves in isolation and share your crazy conspiracy theories, because at least you're not disturbing the rest of us with your stupidity.
That's the thing. It's like, but it's like a boiler, right? Or what do they call those things? The pressure cookers, right? Is that all this hate and racism goes in, and it all boils around in there until one day it explodes. And that's what's going to happen with this app, is that it's going to create more Dylan Roofs, right? It's going to create more of these
Yeah, that's entirely
monsters who go out and kill people because all they do is sit around all day talking about how they can't get ahead with every advantage.
It's going to be like the calling ground for incels.
That's it, yeah. All these guys who think they are owed something
Exactly.
are going to go and
They're
become
owed respect, and
Right.
they're owed women, and they're owed everything else, because those are the true entitled little fucking brats are
Right.
like white men who aren't getting their
That's
way.
it, yeah. They love to talk about how other people are triggered and how other people are entitled, but really
They're
they
the
are the
biggest
most entitled
snowflakes.
and
Oh my
triggered
God.
snowflakes on the planet. It's fucking ridiculous.
It's
Grow the fuck
like
up.
we're embarrassed for you people, seriously.
I'm embarrassed for your mom. You know, your mom deserves better than a person like you.
I don't know. Do we not blame their mom? Like,
I
we
a
had
little
to
bit,
learn
yes,
it from
yeah.
something.
No, mom's probably a jackass too. That's
Yeah.
true. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's fucking annoying though. Grow
It
the
is.
fuck up. All right, what else we got?
You want to keep going?
Sure, we can keep going.
Okay, so we can dig into some of those things. We were talking about some racism beyond policing, with for-profit prisons, marijuana laws, electoral college, gerrymandering.
Well, the electoral college got to go.
Electoral college has got to go, but I feel like a lot of people maybe don't know that it was rooted in racism.
Well,
It was-
because the people who always defend it tend to be racists, I think a lot of people do know it's rooted in racism, or at least they know it's helping their racism now.
Well, it was kind of established in a time where there was obviously a lot of black men and women in the South. Well, I guess at the time, black women wouldn't have mattered because no women had the right to vote, right?
Right.
But it was kind of a thing where they were talking about the North having so many, a much bigger population than the South as far as white men went, which meant that the South would never be represented because, the population in the North would ensure that whoever they voted for was, the person who got elected. And so in the South, they kind of raised a big deal about this because the fact was that they had less of a population, they would get no representation. And so what they started doing was using the Electoral College to represent a population rather than a person who could vote. And therefore, all of the ex-slaves who were in the South, I think it was during slavery. So they were counting all of their slaves who had no right to vote
Right.
in their population using the Electoral College. And therefore, they were able to get a Southern voice based on the fact that they were representing people who had no say
Right.
in the people that they were voting for. And the truth is that it worked because the South kept getting candidates over and over and over elected based on populations of people who couldn't have their interests represented. And that meant that as long as the South was getting their candidates into office, they were always getting the candidates who are pro-slavery into office.
Right.
So these slaves were literally being counted to vote against themselves.
Right.
And I feel like that's not really widely known. And who gives a fuck about the goddamn statues? Rip this down.
Right.
You know? Like, this literally is still affecting us. How many times have we gotten presidents into office who people didn't, they didn't win the popular vote?
Right. Well, not only that, the Electoral College is being manipulated by faithless electors, and more. And it's always to favor Republicans. And Republicans know this. That's why they won't give it up. Because the only reason they are still in power is because of the Electoral College.
Right. Exactly.
Because most Americans are liberal.
Yes, and we're not getting fucking represented.
Right. So the truth of the matter is the only fair way to vote is one person, one vote.
Right. And I want to address the people who are going to bitch about the fact that, oh, well, half the country's red, blah, 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 and we take up so much more space.
Half the country's cows.
You take up more space. That doesn't mean your voice counts for more.
Right.
One person, one vote. The populations in the cities should count for as many votes as, your cows in space take up.
Currently, one Wisconsin, I believe it's Wisconsin. I might be wrong. It might be one of the Dakotas or something like that. But it's one Wisconsinite equals 5 Californians. That's how skewed the vote is. One Wisconsinite equals 5 Californians in the vote.
And these people
and that just shouldn't be.
In these bumpkin states have the same number of senators that the more populated cities do.
Right. Why does my vote matter less because I live in a city than your vote because you live out in the middle of fucking nowhere?
Right. So these states with largely populated cities like New York and California are getting less representation.
Right.
It's completely fucked up.
I agree. That's why I want ranked choice voting and one person, one vote, right?
I completely agree.
So everybody's vote would have an equal weight, and then you can rank your
ranked choice voting is absolutely something that needs to happen. We should do an article on that on the website. But there's literally no other way to break this two-party headbanging that keeps constantly going on in our Senate.
Well, that's the thing. People are afraid to vote third party because they're afraid that their vote won't count because it's always between the two giants.
It doesn't.
And ranked choice would allow for third party, fourth party candidates to get elected. And it's the only way we'll ever see a third or fourth party candidate as a president.
And it's the only way we'll ever stop seeing these stalemates in the Senate where they can't fucking agree on anything. Because when you have more parties in there, they're going to split up amongst whichever side that they're agreeing
that's the thing. You might want a more liberal candidate with slightly more fiscal conservative views, or a more conservative candidate with slightly more socially liberal. There will be those degrees, that gradient
where they go to one side or the other. Right. And it would stop these stupid stalemates where we end up with our senators doing fucking nothing because they can't agree.
I had a guy, a liberal, or Democrat at least, argue with me that this would mean that Republicans would just run weaker candidates against stronger Democrats. And to that I say, let's not run weak Democrats.
Wait, what?
He argued that in many elections where you had a strong Democrat, that Republicans would just run a weak Republican against them and save their stronger candidates for weaker Democrats. And to that I say, we just run all strong Democrats. But it's not just about Democrat and Republican. It's also about those third-party candidates.
Yeah, exactly. We want to see more grassroots, candidates in there. We want to see independents. We want to see, Green Party or what's that other Republican one?
Well, the Libertarians.
Yeah.
Libertarians aren't necessarily Republican. A lot of them tend to be, but I've known several libertarians.
Really?
So yeah, and then the DSA is growing, and I'd like to see them as their own, party on the ballot.
Know what that is.
Democratic Socialists of America.
Oh yes. But that's the bottom line, is that you shouldn't have to worry about throwing your vote away on the candidate you really want.
Right.
That's messed up. Completely messed up.
Right. You should be able to vote for the candidate you want. But if my candidate doesn't make it to the second round, then you have a vote count towards the next candidate, so on and so forth.
Right.
Until everybody's vote has counted one way or the other. You know?
Exactly. It is the only fair way to do voting.
So
Paper ballots, ranked choice voting.
and then maybe we could get rid of things like the private prison industry, which is just not only racist but absolutely corrupt.
Oh, so bad. Private prisons and marijuana laws, both. We need to...
Those two things combined have made for epic level modern day slavery.
Huge levels of racism involved in both of those things. We need to completely legalize marijuana across the board. For these Republicans who are constantly claiming state rights, great, leave it up to the fucking states and legalize it federally. But truly, it needs to be legalized across the board. And then we need to release literally everybody who is serving a prison sentence on marijuana from prison.
Drug charges carry bigger sentences than violent crimes in most
So I work with
cases.
criminal records a lot, actually. I have seen drug charges carry higher sentences than almost anything.
Right.
Like, you can literally kill somebody and have a lighter sentence.
Yeah, rapists are serving lighter sentences.
Way lighter than drug charges. Way lighter. And that's assuming they ever get fucking
Why
arrested.
do you care so much what people are putting into their own bodies? Mind your own business.
I really think that they need to go a step further and make drug use not a crime. You know?
No, I agree. First off,
They should just make treatment available to everybody.
right, which
Nobody
is
wants to
what's
be a
successful.
drug addict.
Let's be honest, it's what's more successful
It
countries
is
are
more
doing.
successful.
Uh,
Give them an option, a path to help themselves, and you won't have these. Like, stop criminalizing everything.
And for instance, in the heroin situation, most of these heroin addicts are heroin addicts because of legal
Prescription
drugs
opiates.
got them there.
Right.
So I would say that maybe those companies that made those prescription drugs should pay for these treatment plans if you're wondering where that money's going to come from. But we are paying out stupid amounts of money. We are 5% of the world population.
Mm-hmm.
We have 25% of the world's incarcerated people.
Because we criminalize fucking everything.
Land
Why
of
is
the free
homelessness
my ass.
criminalized? How are you going to criminalize homelessness?
Right.
That's
When you created it.
yes. Oh my god. Oh my
Homelessness shouldn't even be a thing. It shouldn't even be a thing. Not
It shouldn't be a thing.
If we're
Put the fucking money you're spending on jailing these people into fucking housing.
You know, these people, half their issue is they just had a rough time, or mental health issues, or what I'm saying. A little empathy would go a long way with getting these people back on their feet.
PTSD. Do you know how many homeless are veterans?
Right.
That's
Because
fucking wrong.
they,
that is wrong on every
because their
fucking
country
level.
damaged them and then
Yes.
just abandoned them.
Yes, exactly. It's so wrong. If you can't take care of the people who come back from war, stop fucking sending them to war.
Right. You can't fix them. Don't break them.
I mean, not just that, but if that's not in your fucking outrageous military budget, then you need to fucking change something.
Well, the outrageous military budget is only about making companies that make weapons of war a shit ton of money. That's really what it's about.
You're correct.
So,
but that's not a racism issue necessarily. But the for-profit prisons 100% is.
war is about racism. It is about killing brown people in places that we know nothing about.
I feel like war is mostly about making those people who create weapons of war money. Oh, and banks, because they have to finance the wars on both sides. So
and then
yeah.
me and you get to pay to kill people we don't know.
Exactly. And that have probably really not,
done anything, yeah.
Yeah. Just to, destroy the Middle East, even when they hadn't done anything. Anyway, so so yeah, like for-profit prisons, there is no fucking reason to ever have those be a for-profit industry.
No. Yeah.
What sense does that make ever, other than we're constantly like forking out money to billionaires in this country?
So privatization, the argument for privatization was always about saving money, and it does not. The privatization of the prison industry has cost us far more money than it ever saved, and it has delivered a lower quality of service than we were able to offer on our own. So why are we doing it?
Because people are lining their pockets with money that should be going to sustaining prisoners. Now, here's my thing. I get that they're prisoners and they're in there for a crime, but that's not even touching.
But you
on
can make
how
anything a crime.
That's the thing, and it's not even touching on how fucked up the justice system is. and the longer sentences for people of color, and like all that shit, which is obviously racist in itself. But I kind of throw that in with policing because it's the whole like justice system there. But like the for-profit prisons, like literally, if nobody was lining their pockets off of the excess, not that there is excess, but like that money would be going to actually treating our prisoners in a humane way.
Right.
Those people are in there for stealing food because they were hungry, or like minor things like marijuana possession.
Well, and this is where our police are misused, right? I mean, because we don't charge police with critical thinking, right? And where we expect far more from nurses than we do from cops. Period.
I'm not arguing that.
And the nurses are far better regulated than police. They are far more responsible than police.
Mm-hmm.
Why aren't we moving these things over to the police? The truth of the matter is a little critical thinking would go a long way. When some Karen calls you and says somebody suspicious is walking down the street, what crime did they commit? You know what I'm saying? You need to... If they didn't commit a crime...
Being in a suburb while black.
Right. If they didn't commit a crime, mind your own fucking business.
Right. And that's the thing, is we need to start having some sort of citation for people who are falsely reporting shit.
Yes.
Like, the bottom line is, if your reason for calling the police was because somebody was black, that's completely not okay.
You want to fill the prisons? Fill them with Karens who attempted murder by cop.
I'm not saying, like, throw her in prison, but I'm saying you're, like, inciting...
That's how they'll learn.
Inciting shit. Because, like, come on.
Yeah, I agree.
And the cops don't care.
You
like,
tried to have that person abused by cop because you're hoping that cop is as racist as you are. That's what happened. Just
too many of these Karens have been caught on camera basically saying that it's because they're black.
Right.
Like, you're not fucking fooling anybody.
Right. I agree. It's ridiculous. The whole system's built this way. And it's like, but why? We need to... I think every law from here on needs to have an explanation as to why it exists. It needs to have peer-reviewed scientific evidence as to the idea that this law will work in the way it's intended to work. If we're going to enforce something, it should have to work, right? It
should have to be proven that the reasons aren't based in racism.
Right. Well, not just that, but why?
Or classism.
Why are we making this law to begin with? The people should be free. We are not free. We have all these laws. A cop can tell me whatever the hell they want. They can state curfews.
And then they beat the fuck out of you if you don't obey.
Right. And they don't have to. They're supposed to have to offer you a reason, but they're getting away with not.
That's the thing, is that there are so many times when they're like literally, like people are trying to figure out why the fuck they're being arrested, and these cops are not responding at all.
It
was my understanding that they had to tell you.
It should be immediately not only thrown out, but you should have to be compensated for what they did, and the compensation should come out of the collective retirement fund of the police.
See, not just that. I was saying all along that we need to get rid of qualified immunity, because that literally keeps you from being able to sue the police for almost anything. Literally, it's almost anything.
Well, because there's no precedent. They have to have been sued to begin with,
which they can't have been because qualified immunity exists.
So it's this loop.
It's this
law.
Circular clusterfuck that makes sure that you can't ever sue the police for wrongdoing, which they seem to do a lot based on all the videos that I've seen. So first of all, that needs to go. Second of all, when you do sue the police, it needs to not come from taxpayers. It has to come from their budget.
Right. What's the point in getting in? They didn't learn anything by not having a penalty here.
Right.
Why am I paying for what they did wrong?
Yeah. No wonder there are so many bad cops who just like literally, what was it? 67 violations of abuse of excessive force against the guy who killed George Floyd.
Right.
Was it 67?
I don't know.
It was some outrageous fucking number. And the more and more that these police are getting arrested, the more and more we're finding that they have outrageous numbers of complaints of excessive force against them. Other kills under their belt. More police brutality than like you could reasonably say, well, we didn't see a pattern. Are you fucking kidding?
What was it? 2016. There was in Berkeley. There was a protest. I think it might have been, and there was this cop who had this gigantic can of mace. I mean, the thing looked enormous, right? And he's just walking down the line. These kids are sitting on the ground protesting together, linked arms and everything like that. They're not doing anything wrong. They're not hurting anybody or whatever. And the cop just walks along the line and maces every one of them.
Yep.
Right? He eventually loses his job or whatever, and then sued because he claimed the incident gave him PTSD or something like that, and won.
Are you serious?
Yes. You assaulted a bunch of people. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
And how did you win?
Because the system is racist. That's why.
The whole thing-
judges, oh my God, judges
I
are
know.
so racist.
The whole thing needs to be burned down and started over.
It really does. And I keep saying this over and over because I've always, when I am voting for judges, if I recognize their name, I vote them out.
Yeah.
Like, if I recognize your name, it's because you've been around too fucking long and you're probably correct.
Yeah, I'm against career
Unless
judges.
there's one that I happen to know of that I know has done a good job, which in this state has not happened. No, vote them out. The longer they sit, the more corrupt they are.
I'm not even sure I believe that they should have to have been a lawyer first. Like, a lot of places, most places, you must be a
they're
lawyer
lawyers.
to be a judge. And I'm not sure that
Well, they have to have knowledge of the law. That's why.
That's fine. We can brief you on that. I mean, because most lawyers I've met don't actually have good knowledge of the law.
There's a lot of bad lawyers out there, I'll give you that.
And the law is changing all the time, you know? So the whole thing you see on TV where they can cite a specific case for something that's
But this is my point.
almost non-existent. That's not a real thing.
Right. Oh, no, for sure. But the thing is that, I think that police should be more briefed in the law because they don't seem to know either.
That's what I was saying. Police should have either an associate's or a bachelor's degree to be a police officer. I am not against a city paying for that.
I'm not against that being part of their training. Like, not necessarily like they need to take English and math classes, but they should need to take law classes.
No. They should have to take English and math classes, and they should have to take ethics, and they should have to
Ethics
take
for sure. I think there should be a specific program.
They should have to take some kind of advanced first aid. They need to understand why.
They need to understand who the fuck they work for.
That's it. They need to understand that
what your job is.
That taking care of the citizens is first and foremost. We are their employers. We are their first priority. You know.
Right. If there's anything that these past several weeks have proven, it's the fact that they don't work for us. They work for the elites.
Right.
They
protect
here,
rich people.
They're here to protect rich people and property. And that's it. That's literally the extent of their job. And that flaw has been blatantly exposed.
And that's why this shouldn't end until all that changes.
It does need to change. And those things that we mentioned, the for-profit prisons and the marijuana laws and the electoral college and the gerrymandering, those are things that really kind of go a little bit deeper and underneath. But on the police level, yeah, huge changes need to be made. These people need to be held accountable. There need to be programs in place that stop making everything a fucking crime. There needs to be de-escalation tactics instead of everything results in getting beaten. And even beyond, making the transparency of making police violations public, I think that any violations and complaints against judges and anyone
the
else,
entire system needs to be transparent.
Prosecutors, because how many people have pled guilty that didn't commit a crime?
Right.
Because the prosecutor's like, this is your best bet. This is the only way you're getting out of it.
The entire system should be transparent. And there needs to be an independent board that reviews all these people. A board that is not afraid of what's going to happen when they piss off a judge.
I think it needs to be a civilian board. From what I've seen, there are cities that have that kind of thing in place. It just seems like they have no power to stand up to the police unions, from what I've seen. And that's not cool. They need to be above the police unions.
Yeah. Well, I think the police unions... Look, I think unions are necessary, okay? But the police unions go too far.
The police unions are basically fucking mafia.
Right.
Like, they literally are.
I mean, like, do I get... Like, if I was part of a nursing union, do I get to kill people too? I mean, is that how that fucking works? No.
I mean,
That's not how fucking normal people operate.
It's the fact that these police unions... Okay, so it's not that. It was like the police could kill people, get fired because they were found to be like literally wrong, and then the police union will fight to get them their job back.
Right. And why?
And it works. It works. Like literally, these cities they've been forced to hire back. Like I think it's like 25 or 30% of the people that they fired. Okay, and first of all, you see how hard it is to get a cop fired in the first place. So how much did they have to screw up to be fired by the city, and then the police union got them their job back?
Right.
Like, keep in mind that the guy who killed George Floyd had how many freaking complaints against him, and he still hadn't lost his job.
And he wouldn't have lost his job this time, and he wouldn't have been prosecuted this time if not for the riots and protests. Riots work. I'm sorry. It's an unpopular opinion amongst a lot of people, but the fact of the matter is that if property wasn't in danger, nobody done shit.
Yep. Well, we know that they didn't do shit. Like, even in Atlanta, the police stopped responding to 911 calls unless an officer was in trouble. They were literally not responding to anything.
Okay.
And again,
And another unpopular opinion, but when the police are the danger, less them is a good thing.
I mean, you're not wrong, but the bottom line is that A, we don't have a different system in place right now, and B, if you're not responding to calls, then what is your purpose and why are we paying you?
Right. I agree. Go home.
You're literally earning city tax dollars right now. Leave. You're fired. If you're not going to do your job, you're fired.
Right.
Literally nobody else can just not do, aside from the president, cannot do their job and not get fired.
I agree.
If I worked at, literally anywhere as a waitress and I didn't do my job, like they said, hey, table 4 needs to be waited on. And I said, that's not one of my friends. I'm not going to wait on them.
Right.
Legit, I'd be fired instantly.
Right. Yeah. I know. So this is where we're at, right? We need total police reform in this country. And I don't know. I haven't seen enough of the
we need
Democratic
complete
bill.
justice system
The whole
reform.
thing. Yeah,
The whole
the
thing.
whole.
And full transparency.
Absolutely. Everything in our government, everything about our government should be fully transparent. I should be able to look up any
Unless
detail.
it puts us at risk with other countries, yes. Completely.
You mean aside from our intelligence community?
Yes.
But even our intelligence community should have to answer
They have to answer
being
to somebody.
ethical.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
If they aren't ethical in what they're doing, no.
No, I agree. There should be some sort of accountability.
So that's where we're at. We need accountability across the board.
And maybe people who aren't awful people in the higher levels of government.
So when
And the lower levels of government. Just
So-
across the board. Does anybody have morals anymore?
I think it's just they see that money, and that's all they can think about.
I think there's a certain type of person drawn to being a police officer, and I think that we need to do a better job of weeding them out before they ever become one.
It's not just that. What they're looking for are people who don't question, right? They don't. They have no critical thinking skills, and they don't question their orders. They just do what they're told, and that's what
That's
they
a
want.
problem.
I don't know if this is true, but I had seen somebody saying that you can actually be excluded from the police, the recruiting process for the police for some police forces if your IQ is too high.
Are you serious?
Somebody was saying,
Okay.
I didn't check the information on it.
And here's the thing, is that you should always be expecting your officers to question, well,
Right.
why are you doing this?
Right.
That should always be the case.
Right.
And the fact that we've seen multiple officers now claim that they stopped a coworker, they stopped another officer from doing a chokehold or from their excessive abuse or whatnot, and they got fired
Right.
for standing up to an officer who was abusing somebody, that says a lot about the system that we have in place.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I've seen it multiple times now
Yeah, and the
in different states.
police retaliation goes unpunished.
And I know that it goes beyond those few people who got fired. There's probably people who haven't lost their job who are now getting retaliation from their buddies at work.
Oh yeah, no, it's definitely happening. So, all right, what else did we have?
That was most of it. I
Yeah.
mean, good Lord. I'm
It's exhausting,
exhausted.
I know. But we got to come together. We got to vote, right? We've got to get out to the polls. We've got not just vote. We got to run. We got to get
Yes, that's what I was
involved.
going to
You
say.
gotta-
We need to get these grassroots people who are going to make actual changes. These people who are not bought and paid for by corporations and the establishment.
Right.
We need to take over government and make a change. If we want to see these changes happen, get the fuck out there and run.
Right, and not just that, right? Show up at your city council meetings. Show up at your town hall meetings. Force these people to listen, because when they show up to their, and to do their job, the rare occasion a politician shows up to do their job, hold them accountable.
Also, if you are going to run for office in your jurisdiction and you are one of these grassroots politicians who's running for, House or Senate or whatever it is, and these are the kinds of issues that you're going to be taking on and you're running against some sort of establishment Republican or whatnot, message us and we'll give you a shout out on the podcast. We would love to see more grassroots people who are fighting against the racism and the systematic issues that we are seeing in government, kind of all over the damn place.
Yep, that's the thing. The grassroots people are going to be the superheroes of the future. You know.
Yep, I was thrilled to see AOC got back in and by a landslide.
It shows where we're going. Yeah.
Well, she's the nominee. So.
I mean, well, because Lindsey Graham is concerned about us ruffian progressives and grassroots people. He hates the idea that the citizens could have a voice.
Yes, we've seen more support in these last primaries, for the grassroots nominees and stuff. So that's huge. It's huge.
Yeah, I'd love to see a lot more of you citizen politicians.
Yep.
So, all right, I guess we will see you guys next time. So don't forget to follow us at @fire_American on Twitter. Do we have a website now?
We do. It's americandumpsterfire.vegasiermedia.com.
So go there and check us out. And and we have a Facebook group now. Just look up American Dumpster Fire on Facebook, and we have a Reddit page, r/American Dumpster Fire. So go check us out. Talk with us. Let's have the discussion about how to better our world. Talk to you next time.